The process of deciding the future of Little Bay Island is getting closer to an end. Residents there voted 100% in favor of relocation earlier this week. There's at least one couple, though, who will not be leaving. And Mike Parsons and his wife, Georgia, are going to be staying even if government agrees to compensate people for moving. Mike Parsons is on the line with us right now. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning.
Well, tell us, first of all, for anyone who hasn't been to Little Bay Island, or even if we have visited there, what is the attraction for you of staying in this small community?
Well, I guess, first of all, it's my hometown. I grew up here, and like a lot of Newfoundlanders, went away for my career, with the plan that eventually one day I would come back home to retire. And so basically that's what myself and my wife did a couple of years ago. Saw this resettlement thing looming and stuff, and we wanted to come back and and be a part of this community while it still existed, and so that's what we did.
So even though resettlement was possibly on the horizon, you still made the decision to go back there?
Absolutely. I mean, I've seen and heard too many occurrences of people talking about stuff that they would do when they retired and what would happen in the future and stuff, and for various reasons, a lot of people never ever got to do that for sickness or health or circumstances changed. So, myself and my wife, this has been our dream for quite some time, and we wanted to live it, and that's exactly what we decided to do, and that's what we're going to do.
Now, Mike, you didn't actually qualify to vote in this relocation vote. Why is that?
Well, for the time period in question for this particular vote, myself and my wife Georgina didn't live on the island, and so we didn't qualify for the time period that that was part of this vote. So we didn't vote, and nor did we think we should vote. I mean, we've both been firm believers that it should be only the permanent residents that had the vote whether or not to resettle the island. So from that perspective, we came back knowing full well that we wouldn't have a say in what happened to the future of the community. But for us, it didn't make any difference about our plan. Our plan was to come back here, and like I said, I stepped up my retirement by a few years and decided to come back anyway.
What's it been like in the community with these relocation votes taking place? What impact has it had?
Well, quite frankly, it's been really tough on this community. I mean, in some ways, it's almost destroyed the fabric of this community. I mean, this process has been going on for 7+ years, and there's been multiple votes. And if you look back at the history and stuff, there's been some pretty close calls with votes right up to the last vote prior to this one. It was like 89 point something, which it's created a rift in the community, no doubt about that. So it's in a lot of ways, it's destroyed, what was once a community where everybody was family, and now you have instances of where people won't talk to people and those types of things, and it's unfortunate because anybody that's ever been to Little Bay Islands, either to live or visit here, has always commented on, how close-knit the family was. I think it's indicative of a lot of these rural communities where, you treat your neighbor like your family as opposed to, just being another member of the community. So there's been some hard feelings, and unfortunately, some of these rifts will probably never heal.
And have people felt pressured to vote yes in favor of resettlement, even if they didn't really feel that was what they wanted?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, take the instance of the last vote. I mean, you have 89% of the population that want to leave the island and are in favor of resettlement. Then you have a handful of people that didn't, and so you can imagine how people felt that the minority gets to decide the fate of the majority, and that doesn't sit well with a lot of people.
How do you explain this vote now, the vote in favor of relocation, 100%?
Resignment. I think people have just resigned themselves to the fact that that the island will resettle at some point. And I think people just, I think a lot of people just kind of gave up and said, you know what, I don't want to fight this any longer, and I'm just going to go with the flow and see what comes out of it. I mean, it's, you have to put yourself in the place of these people that, they've had their lives on hold for 7 years or more, waiting the outcome of this resettlement thing. And, there comes a time where you just have to say, well, I just can't do it anymore.
On the upside, what are the positives of relocation? There must be some advantages, at least for some residents.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I have no qualms about the people that want to leave. Everybody has their own reasons for what they want to do in their lives. And, there's a lot of people that, the majority of the population are seniors, and, a good number of those have health issues. I mean, I'm here now in my house. I'm looking across the garden to my father's house where my dad and mom live, and my dad has health issues, and, he's 75 years old. So, it breaks his heart to talk about this whole thing. But what do you do when you're in a situation where you're worried about your health and having to deal with the ferry and all that? So I understand all the reasons why people want to leave, and I think some have just kind of, like I said, because of how long and convoluted this process has been, people have just kind of given up. They've given up. They've given up not only on the community and stuff, but they've given up on a lot of things that have just wore them down to the point where, you know what, I'm just going to go along with whatever and hope for the best.
So, Mike, what about you now and your wife? You're going to stay living there. You don't rely on the ferry. You can manage without it. Won't you be lonely living there with just the two of you?
Well, obviously, it's going to be an adjustment for us, but given the type of people we are, we have each other, obviously. So, that's the most important thing. But no, it was, I grew up on this island, and when you live on these small islands, there's a sense of isolation anyway. And so it's not something brand new to me. I mean, I lived in rural Ontario for a good number of years. And so I know what it's like in the winters. Nothing here will surprise me in the sense of, you have to deal with ice, and, there may be periods of time when you're iced in for, a few weeks or whatever. But, we have our own means to go and to and from the island. We have a place on the mainland in the event that, for whatever reason that we need to spend any time on the mainland or whatever. But no, we're looking at it as an adventure. My wife is 43, and I'll turn 52 in a few weeks. So we're young, we're healthy, and this is a time of our life that we want to do this. I mean, there's a quote by a favorite author of mine, Henry David Thoreau, who says, go confidently in the direction of your dreams and live the life you've imagined. Well, this is the life that we've imagined. And as much as I would love for this island to continue on the future, with a community and ferry services and all that, if that's not to be, then, we're going to make the best of it. And there's portions of it where we're actually very excited about it. I mean, this is something we've talked about, something we've dreamt about living here and the challenges and all that. So, no, we don't have any real concerns.
Mike, thanks so much for taking some time to speak with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
We wish you well. That's Mike Parsons living on Little Bay Island.
Time for some music now. When Joel